Joining us now, Tom Garrett, the commander of common sense, talking to the man with the plan. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Are we on the air?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear a little wind in the background. Last
Can
week,
you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh my gosh! Well, I was telling you I was on page B11 of my local paper, but I got tired of reading it, so I tuned into another station and it stunk. So I'm listening to you. No,
thank you.
We've made a decision on the health care bill. We've been there for probably a week and a half, and I'm a yes. And the reason is, while this bill is not all we wished and hoped it would be, this is kind of the definition of Reagan's 80% rule, where you take 80% and you come back later for 20. What it does is it powers down a lot of the decision-making authority to the states. If you believe in federalism, I think what will happen is we'll see states have the latitude to make decisions for themselves. We'll start to see what works, and you'll see a lot of states start to gravitate towards that. It's going to take some time. But I think decentralization of decision-making, ultimately to the people is a good thing. And, I'd write it differently. But I think it's time to go ahead and get the yes and get this win. And this bill's going to lower premiums and going to lower deductibles, and that's what it's all about.
Okay, so you are the program's imploding. I haven't seen the details of it, but here's the deal, and I've said this before. I trust your judgment. And so Dave's going with it. You're going with it. I haven't talked to Congressman Whitman. We'll get him on tomorrow, but I trust your judgment. So you've seen it. You're for it. That's quite honestly, Congressman, that's good enough for me. I want to get to the budget that you're voting on today. And I was on a conference call yesterday, a reporter's conference call in the White House with Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, who was claiming a victory, saying that...
I don't want to... This is like one of those moments, and of course we're being recorded because it's live, that I don't even want to talk about it. But go ahead.
Well, he was claiming a victory. Paul Ryan said it's a victory because they're no longer doing what Obama said, but I thought he was no longer the president, so that one didn't make any sense. Then they said that really the victory was not a government shutdown because that's what the Democrats wanted. So I guess that was the other victory. And the third victory was something about they defunded Planned Parenthood in the health care bill, but not in the regular bill. Of course, no money for the wall. We got more H-2B1 visas coming down the pike, doubling that so we can get cheap labor. We've also got no sanctuary cities are being funded. Domestic spending and military spending, I guess, good news up, $21 billion. Spending is up. No cuts, nothing. And they're claiming victory. The question is, why are we voting in favor of this budget when Republicans have a majority in both houses and the presidency?
Okay.
And tell me what is different with this budget.
I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, and this is a victory just like the last Super Bowl was.
Yes.
Nobody whipped this vote, and the reason they didn't whip this vote is because they knew they had the votes. The reason they knew they had the votes is because there's nothing in here that's bold. There's nothing in here that backs up any sort of campaign promise. This is sort of, how about if we do things just like we used to do them, and then everybody can claim victory. I don't even know what to say about it, except when you got more Republicans dissenting on a Republican president's budget with a Republican Senate than you have Democrats, probably you capitulated. I don't, and candidly, I don't know where to cast the blame. I'm sort of vociferously in favor of a lot of things that the president's trying to do. I don't think that the speaker is some sort of Manchurian candidate. What in the heck is going on here? So I don't know what to say.
I mean, why doesn't the president veto this and just say, look, this is unacceptable. It has nothing. I got elected. I guess you didn't get the memo. Nothing that I requested is in this budget except the defense spending increase. Nothing else is there.
Literally, John, you've got, 190 plus or minus Democrat members of the House, and you lose 10? I mean, you're telling me you can't get a border wall in there. You're telling me you can't legislatively pull money for Planned Parenthood. You're telling me I don't know. I'm I'm flummoxed and at a loss for words, and that does not happen often.
Well, the thing is, if Trump vetoed this and just went back and said, excuse me, we have majorities in both houses. Okay, Senator McConnell, here's what...
The problem, though, is that Trump's asked us to vote for the thing. I mean, now, I know he's got a lot going on, and I don't know if I've hit it on your program, but I've hit it on a number of others. The North Korea thing is real, and it's a problem that he did not create, but sort of inherited, and I won't blame President Obama. I'll blame President Obama and President Clinton and President Bush, and, but he never has said, hey, this is something we don't want to work with it, or, like 3 or 4 days out from last Friday, we heard, well, we're just going to take the border wall out and go with what we got. If he vetoes it now, it makes it really hard for us to understand who we're working with going forward, but we never heard anything. And then I looked at it and thought, wait a second, where's the opposition? There is none. There's $20 trillion of debt. It's an existential problem. And there's 30 of us who think this is a bad idea. So I don't know.
I mean, you're right. 30 to 35 Republicans are going to vote against this, and maybe a handful of Democrats for whatever reason. It's going to sail through. And here's what the base doesn't understand. The people that voted for you and voted for the Republican Senate in 2014 all over the country, voted for Trump, they're looking at this budget and they're saying to themselves, what's the point? What exactly is different? If Hillary was president and Schumer was the majority leader, maybe there'd be a couple $2 billion spent on a domestic program that's not in there, but this would essentially be the same. So people are saying, what's the point? And then for the president to say, yeah, I'm going to go with it, and then I'm going to fight it in September. You know how many times, Congressman, we've been down this path? How many times? It's not a hill to die on. It'll be the next battle, the next fight, the next budget, the next crime omnibus, the next omnibus.
Has it been 9 years since we passed the budget? I think it's been 9 years.
9 years.
Article 1, the legislative branch, whose primary and one could argue principal responsibility is to pass a budget, has passed a budget. The whole continuing resolution thing sort of abrogates the entire United States Constitution. And I get frustrated when I hear, these guys took a 2-week recess or whatever. We work hard all the time because we're not in Washington, we're in our districts working. But we do have a duty to pass a budget. And I don't want to cast the blame at President Trump's feet, although he has the loudest microphone. What is going on here? I don't have anything good to say. I can't spin it. I can't wrap my brain around it.
Are you going to vote no today?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, right?
It's an easy no. It's an easy no.
It's a ridiculous
and
budget.
Again, had the president said, if not this, then veto, and take it one or two things, right? I understand it's not the budget vote, but to take a symbolic stand and put down a marker, because you move from where you start. And so in September, we're going to be starting really in the last president's administration as it relates to what we're spending. And so why not push the marker forward? I don't know.
It really makes no sense. And the victory they're claiming is a head scratcher. Trump got nothing he asked for in the original budget, and it's like the Goldman Sachs people in there are just having a rollover. And then I tell you what is even absurd is this conference call I was on with Budget Director Mulvaney yesterday in Washington was a real head scratcher. And I did a column on it. And look, I mean, it is what it is. You can't not tell the truth here, okay? And Mulvaney is claiming victories where none exist. I mean, it was like, and then you got Paul Ryan claiming a victory that they got the defense spending and didn't go with the Barack Obama dollar for dollar domestic spending to defense spending mandate. Well, Obama's not the president, and they don't have a majority in either chamber. So how is that a victory? I mean,
I don't.
How is that a victory?
I'm completely flummoxed. Now,
You're not.
I will say this. I will defend some of my colleagues who are yeses on this, who I think are good, strong conservatives. They extracted commitments way back in December of last year, essentially for more of the same. And so, when you believe it or not, in Washington, when you give your word, if you're smart, you're bound by it. Mm-hmm. But good grief, And again, I'm not throwing stones at the president. I'm not throwing stones at the Democrats, except to say, however you all did this, somebody send me the formula, because they don't have a leg to stand on, and they're not losing anything. Just pick an item, President Trump. Say, nope, sorry, there's going to be border wall money in this, or nope, sorry, we're not funding Planned Parenthood in this. Now, I grant you that that's in the health care bill that hasn't passed, right? So.
Right. That's another Pyrrhic victory.
It's like Wimpy. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Exactly, Congressman Garrett. It's another Pyrrhic victory. Here's a victory. We didn't put the Planned Parenthood funding in the Obamacare replacement bill we haven't passed. I mean, it's like, okay, that's a victory. I mean, what? It defies all logic. And I tell you what, our callers the last 3 days have been outraged by this. It's been going on since the thing came out Sunday night. No one even knows how it got there. It just bubbled up one day and appeared on Sunday night. And what an incredible thing. And, you know, when this happens, Congressman.
Well, let me tell you a story. They whipped me on this they whipped me on this about a week before it. And I whipped as a lean yes, right? Because I presumed that everything that we've been talking about for the last year and a half was in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I didn't whip as a yes, because you get back to if you give your word, you kind of got to keep it.
Right.
I whipped as a lean yes. I looked at it and I went, what am I looking at? It's mind-numbing.
It's unbelievable. Congressman, let's get to North Korea. You opened the conversation by saying the threat is real. Share with us what you're able to say.
So when the half-brother is assassinated using weapons of mass destruction, right, just for an exclamation point, in Malaysia, a third-party nation, what Kim 3 did was sort of poke his finger into the eye of the Chinese. The Juche attitude is that essentially you've got something tantamount to a god king, a familial line ordained by higher power, and the half-brother was kind of a stopgap measure. If there ever needed to be a replacement Kim, the Chinese could shuffle him in there and he could take the reins. That was a sort of move that was more brazen than anything his father or grandfather before him had ever executed. So we're looking at a power that in '98 was messing around with about a 1 kiloton yield on their nuclear detonations, is now kicking around 40 kilotons. This is all unclassified stuff. Obviously, they've been trying to pair those weapons to delivery systems. What they can and can't range is subject to conjecture. But the guy who's pulling the strings, calling the shots, is not conforming to what we had heretofore. That is, that he's more brazen, more willing to sort of chart his own course. Now, I will not blame President Obama. I will blame President Obama and President Bush and President Clinton and President Bush. It was just '98 that the North Koreans first developed a nuclear capability, and we've sort of slept on it. The problem is there are 24 million people in Greater Seoul. That's almost 3 people in Greater Seoul for every 1 person in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And there are quite literally thousands of artillery delivery systems, not nuclear, but cannons, rockets, and missiles that can range Greater Seoul. If we thought we could eliminate the Korean nuclear threat via a swift and decisive attack without retribution, I would candidly support it today. The problem is when we go remove the nuclear option from his arsenal, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people die because we did it. Now, having said that, you got a dictator who believes the best way to ensure perpetual power is to prove to the world that he will, without hesitation, kill tons of people. So your negotiating metric becomes one of, do we launch a first strike at the risk of hundreds of thousands dead in an artillery exchange, or do we wait, knowing that the ramifications of waiting could be waking up one day and finding out literally that Tokyo or Seoul or, God forbid, Hawaii or the west coast of the United States has been hit by a nuclear first strike. And that makes this, I think, a more perilous situation than anything, certainly since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think the political paradigm is really horrible because the left is so hell-bent on dogmatic sort of jingoism about how horrible Trump is that when he does the best he can with a horrible hand of cards he's been dealt, he almost can't win. But contemplate that you might wait and then lose an entire first world city with civilian casualties beyond anything you've ever witnessed, or you might act. There's no good answer here. So of the stuff that I know about that keeps me up at night, I'd say North Korea is at the top of the list.
Congressman Tom Garrett, we're out of time. I want to thank you for that very sober and riveting analysis of the North Korean situation. Also, as always, Congressman, your candor on the budget and that state of that going forward. I told everybody when you got elected there, you would come on every week and you would tell the truth, and you have exceeded everyone's expectations. I want to thank you for that. You are a window to the world in there, and thank you for sharing that. More information, you can go to Tom Garrett, 2 R's, 2 T's, .house.gov, tomgarrett.house.gov. Follow Tom on Twitter at Garrett for VA, at Garrett for VA. Congressman Tom Garrett, thanks for being with us, sir. I'm out of time.
We will do it again, and I apologize for the technical mix-ups here recently, and look forward to seeing you in person at some point in the future.
All right. I'll be up there about 3 weeks a month, so I'll pop in and we'll have a cigar one day after work.
My condolences on your frequent visits to D.C.
It's an eye-opener. So I tell my audience, you got to get up there and get right in it to see what really you're up against and who runs that government. And it's an eye-opener, no question. Sir, I'm out of time. Thank you so much. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back. Stay with us.